Single parenting isn't easy. We understand. Most parents don't plan to go it alone, but you can still make the most of this journey for your children and yourself. In fact, if you and your family are on that journey, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Single Parent Advocate community and to our podcast. And here are your hosts, single parent founder Stacie Poitras, and broadcast journalist, single dad and friend, Darrell Moody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Darrell Moody. This is the Single Parent Advocate podcast. I'm joining you again from my home studios here in Orlando, Florida. Stacie is there in the beautiful, posh, spacious, luxurious SPA studios there in Dallas. You're at Venture X Louisville, the Realm at Castle Hills. Thank you to those fine folks. Stacie, you are there. Brent Sutcliffe is joining us again from his RACC-TV channel on Twitch. Brent has become a popular friend of the show here. And this week, Stacie, we're going to talk about, it's all about back to school. I mean, all of us single parents are all in the same boat right now, and that is the mad scramble to get ready for back to school. My kids go to school literally tomorrow. Brent, you said yours kids go back to school next week. How's everything at Single Parent Advocate? I know you guys had the big book backpack drive the week before, and now you left us. You were raising money to provide computers and that sort of thing for these families. Where are we in that effort?
Okay, well, first of all, we had once again just a really great back to school effort. We helped a bunch of kids and parents, and it was a wonderful showing of volunteers. It was really cool. So, to your point, right now we have about 15 to 20 single parents in college. We like to try to buy their books. So I'm looking for sponsorships for, anywhere from $250 to $500 to help single parents in college who are in our program in the North Texas area. We want to buy their books. That helps them continue to pay for utilities, electricity, even, just part of their rent, or if you think about it, the increased food costs that happen, it seems like, going to pay all of the different, food lines and all of that at school. So one of the families told me, Darrell and Brent, they're really in need of clothing. So I was thinking about, single parents in college, and they need to not only get the supplies, but then they've got to pay their tuition, and then they got to get their kids some clothing too. And so one of the things that bubbled up from the families is we need to figure out a way to make clothing affordable at back to school. So that was one of my key takeaways this year. And we're also going to be circling back around not only with the book scholarships for single families, we're going to actually be able to provide some of these families some computers. And so I'm hoping we can get it to them sooner than later. But I'm working on computers. I'm working on solutions for clothes. And I'm working on, just turning the corner after back to school and moving forward to prepare for North Texas Giving Day on September 23rd.
Well, I tell you, you talk about back to school shopping and clothes. I didn't realize how lucky I was having kids in school with uniforms. My kids go to a magnet school here in Orange County. It's a foreign language academy. They have a Spanish track and a French track. Both my girls are in the French track. My oldest daughter, Elise, is starting the third grade, and Claire is starting the first grade. So really, I had no idea, because this is my second back to school as a single, I guess, really on my own, my second back to school season where I'm kind of on my own to gather all my own stuff. And it's just amazing how much money I've saved only having to buy uniforms. And lucky for me, as long as it's a solid polo, they can wear whatever color they want. And then they got either the khaki or the navy bottoms. And it's just, man, I just had no idea. I was talking to a friend of mine who has 3 teenagers, and she had to go to the mall yesterday and spent thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, I got all my uniforms for less than $200. So that's certainly a benefit for me. So for you guys to be raising money to buy these families clothes, that's a tremendous effort.
Yeah, I would. Oh, go ahead, Brent.
No, I was going to say, Darrell, you're definitely blessed on that front. Like, just being able to go that route, because like I wear like pretty much the same thing every day, jeans and a polo. Like I might switch it up and wear a black polo, but it's still a polo, still the jeans, and so I'm blessed in a position where I have a wife to help with some of the clothes and things like that. So I just have one teenage son, so we can work that out. But I can't imagine being a single parent, especially a single dad in my position who has no taste in fashion and have to get a kid or kids ready for school. I just can't imagine, so it's great that the single parent advocate has that in place, that you can help with some advice or resources for maybe single dads in my position who have little to no taste and are like, what do I do about back to school?
Well, I used to take my son to Old Navy, but like Darrell's saying, he went to a school where it was pretty much uniforms. So we would go to Target, and sometimes Walmart, and then after a while, when they got in upper school, he had some freedom, and then he would go to H&M or, to some affordable places where we could buy clothes. But the thing is, if you buy clothes for, even one child, and they need, a week and a half of choices, it's really kind of crazy. It gets expensive fast. And so we don't have a solution yet for it, but I'm definitely on the hunt for that, for the computers, and then also for the book scholarships for our families that are going to school for themselves and trying to increase their earning power.
And if folks want to support that effort, go to singleparentadvocate.org. You can give there. You can also give through all the various social media channels we have on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at the Single Parent Advocate. So we certainly encourage you folks to log on and help out with that.
Yeah, thanks for the mention there, Darrell.
That's why I'm here, Stacie.
So I brought up a sticky topic today. I just had a little burr under my saddle today. It was about boundaries. And, how about we're, getting into school and, new bedtimes and wake up times and, structure has to be put back in our lives in a different way. Then there's the choices, right? The choices between mask or no mask going on, online versus in person. And I just thought I'd throw that topic out of there and ask you, what do you think? You want to talk about boundaries today?
No, I'm not talking about boundaries. See what I did there? I established a boundary. I told her, Stacie, we're not talking about boundaries. That's how boundaries work.
Yeah. I see.
You know that saying, great, good fences make great neighbors. There's a reason why that saying exists.
I see. So we won't be talking about boundaries. We'll be talking about fences.
No, I'll talk about boundaries.
Oh.
I was just trying to illustrate to the viewers.
Yes.
How to establish a boundary.
Yeah, you shut me down real quick. I didn't quite know how to deal with that.
Only kidding. But to your point, I mean, routines are everything. And, when especially as the kids get older, that's where the boundaries come into play. Brent, your work, I'm not there yet. So tell me about your teenager.
I mean, well, it's again, my experience is different from a lot of folks. My wife is usually gone at work by 4 a.m. So I get him ready for school and try to get him out, So over the last week, what we've been doing is I've been like, okay, forewarning, summer's over, we're getting you up. And I started this last week. We're getting you back up at 7 a.m. You've got a bedtime again, because I want to prep you for school next week. So we've had him up and ready by the school times, eating breakfast, all that jazz to start prepping for school. Which sorry if I miscommed, Darrell. We actually start on this Wednesday, not next week.
So this is go week for you too.
Oh yeah. I've been singing Christmas songs all week. It's the most wonderful time of the year. But I mean, what's great about the talk about boundaries and structure and all that stuff is a lot of it can tie into the new school year. This is what we've got to do by this time to get to here, and then there's that structure and boundaries you can reestablish, and for me, it's son, we're up by 7, ready to go by 7:30, 7:45, drop you off at school, and then it's off to work, and we can get back into that routine as opposed to, okay, summer we're free, sleep in, and all that jazz. And I don't have to keep an extra eye out of the side of my head. But, I have to have an extra ear now because of this new world we live in with COVID and all that stuff. You just don't know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis anymore.
So how are they doing masks at those independent school districts there in the greater Dallas area?
They really haven't been to, gosh, it's just kind of hard to word because there's no virtual. Weirdly, there's no virtual this year, which I thought was really strange.
Well, the story is none of the school districts have the extra funding for it. That's why we don't have it here, is because all of that stuff was being paid for by federal and state funds. That funding is no longer there. So the districts are like, well, we can't afford to provide it for everybody.
Yeah, I don't recall reading that, but again, that wouldn't surprise me. But it's still just odd, with the pandemic for those families that are really concerned. I mean, us personally, we're sending your butt back to school. Sorry, dude. I mean, but that's for us. Every family situation, parent situation is different. We're not considered high risk, no major ill effect, all that jazz. So we're fine, go back to school. So what I've told him, I said, look, because my son, he doesn't want a mask and I can respect his decision to not want one. But I'm like, dude, you need to take it in your backpack just in case, because if somebody needs that respect, I expect you to give that respect, whether you like it or not. I mean, and that goes back to boundaries too. If you're in a class with somebody who's afraid or high risk because there's no virtual, you need to be ready to respect those boundaries if that person would like a mask and all that jazz.
Yeah, I think, what a lot of the schools here in Texas, they are letting the students and the families make a decision for themselves. And, whether that has impact on those around them and how that has an impact on those around them, I think that's going to be a face-to-face thing that people figure out from classroom to classroom and hall to hall in the schools for now. I started to provide masks in the backpacks for everyone to, have a handful of masks for each child. But then when it came right down to it, there aren't enough masks to give. I mean, it's a massive thing. So I'm pretty sure the schools are probably going to have those on site. And if they need to be putting them on, they'll take care of it there, is the way I see it going right now. Family to family, classroom to classroom.
So here in Central Florida, all of the school districts decided over the course of the summer to make masks optional.
Yep.
And then if you follow the headlines, here in Florida, we've had this just dramatic surge in COVID cases. And we've had a couple of school districts that have come out and said, no, we're going to make a mandatory. But before that even happened, Governor Ron DeSantis here in Florida wrote an executive order basically saying that the decision of wearing a mask or not to wear a mask will be made by families and by parents and not mandated by the individual school district. So the way that the district where my kids go to school, Orange County Public Schools, what they have said is that everybody will wear a mask on the first day unless you bring a note from your parents that says little Johnny and Susan do not have to wear masks. So it's just kind of everybody's going to be expected to wear masks, but it is ultimately going to be left up to the parents. I mean, for my kids, my ex-wife and I at least agree on this. Masks are not optional for our kids. They're going to wear masks. My kids are disgusting little germ bags, and they're not going to be spreading that stuff around school, nor are they going to be bringing it home. So as far as we're concerned, you will wear masks wherever, you're expected to wear masks.
Now, they are princesses.
They still carry germs.
I can't help but think about the single parent or mom or dad who it's just them, and then they have a younger child, right? Or children. And if anything happens to that parent, the whole world shuts down, I just can't help but think that hopefully people are being considerate and understanding, like what Brent said, about trying to be sensitive to the people around them, and that, the peer pressure is to kind of defer to the weakest one in the room, if you will, or the one that is, the most vulnerable, and be conscious of it. I think that is just, I guess, why this is on my heart so much is trying to put a message out there to, hey, you may have a preference, but there may be an impact on someone else that distracts them. And and worries them legitimately. And, we should all kind of adopt a philosophy of, respecting boundaries, right?
Well, with my kids, I mean, just within the last month, we lost our next door neighbor, Miss Patricia, who was 78 years old and did not get vaccinated. She made it 11 days in the intensive care unit with COVID. And unfortunately, we lost her 2 weeks ago today. So for my kids, wearing a mask is very real. And my mother was not vaccinated until recently. She just got her first dose a few weeks ago. So for my kids, I mean, nobody wants to wear a mask. I don't like wearing masks. I hate smelling my own breath. That's the whole reason why I got vaccinated, so I wouldn't have to wear a mask. But here we are wearing masks again. But, I on my own podcast, Not in the Mood with Darrell Moody, I talked about this week. I believe the masks work because when we started rolling out the vaccines, everybody was wearing a mask. And then after the vaccine started getting rolled out, now everybody's on the honor system, where if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, but we can't ask you. So now all of a sudden you're at the store and only a handful of people are wearing masks. Now we've seen this, huge surge in cases. So to me, that's kind of hard to deny. I'm of the opinion that the masks work. So we told our kids, they're not optional for you. You'll wear them.
Yep. So there's a couple of boundaries, I was thinking of, like, how do you set a boundary in this environment, and really in any environment? One of my go-to boundary settings is to go in a room and close the door behind me. Like, okay, I'm not available right now. I'm focusing on this or this. I really need to pay attention because I otherwise will chase a squirrel or get distracted or forget. I have to write things down, and have my little checklist and things. But a lot of times we can't go in a room and shut the door. We have to actually talk to somebody and ask them, look, this isn't working for me. How do you address boundaries, Brent?
I mean, honestly, what I really like, I mean, obviously you don't want to dig into the whole mask and all that stuff, but the thing about the mask is it makes it like, I'm trying to word this right. I'm like thinking over my thoughts because it was a really good thought. But, with the mask, it's kind of saying, okay, this is my space. I don't want anything extra coming in here. So for me, I'm pretty flexible going with that analogy is if I need my space, I say, hey, pretty well, I'm working on this right now. And so please wait for me in the other room. Please don't be too loud. And my son is generally respectful of that. It's just making clear, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm trying to do. But I don't have any tall tale, close the door signals or anything like that. I pretty much just say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the space that I need. And that goes over pretty well. It's just saying it. We're kind of go with the flow with that. At work, I'll shut my door and my employees know, okay, his door is shut. We're going to leave him alone for right now. And if they desperately need me, they'll text me or email me or something.
Well, it kind of works on both sides of the door, right? You're inside working on things, but sometimes we have to close the door so the noise we're making doesn't bother people on the outside of the door, right? And I'm pretty sure your son has to tell you, Dad, I'm doing my homework or I'm doing this, and give me some time or flexibility in the reverse too, right?
Yeah, I mean it definitely goes both ways. And we're going to be working on that this year with he's going into the 8th grade this year. So homework and all that's picking up. So we're going to be working on that some more. He used to, in the good old days with younger grades, is just do his homework at school because they didn't give him very much. But I kind of said, look, dude, your reality is changing. Homework's going to get bigger and in more detail. And we're going to have to really work on that stuff this year. Because school doesn't get easier until the school, the amount of stacks of books we all remember coming home with.
Well, when the pressure's on, I think it's hard to really slow down and go, okay, wait a minute, what do I need here? How do I communicate it? And how do I keep, like good fences and good neighbors all happy, Darrell, you had an idea. What I was
going to say is what you guys are talking about sounds completely foreign to me. My kids are 8 and 6. I just recently got to where I can use the bathroom with the door closed. So for me, I have to lock my front door. If I have to lock my bedroom door, if I want any real privacy, I mean, because how little kids, you guys are so far removed from it, but little kids love to wander in on you when you're in the bathroom. I mean, there's no me time when you have little kids. So for me, I have to lock the door. Otherwise they'll come in, especially in the morning. We're all getting dressed and stuff. And it's like, no, I'm getting dressed. Like you go get dressed. I'll get dressed and then we'll meet in the hallway. So for me, I have to like, firmly place that boundary and maintain it and fortify it and protect it really. So for me, I have to go as far as to lock the door because they don't even knock.
Those are the good old days. My personal favorite is it's 5 a.m. Wifey and I are trying to sleep. Then you open your eyes and it's like, boom, it's right there. And that's scarier than any horror movie is your toddler staring at you like 5 a.m. And you're like,
I'm a light sleeper. So they wake me up before they get to the bed.
When the foot crosses the threshold.
I'm a really light sleeper. I've worked so many, being in broadcasting for the last 15 years, I work crazy hours. So, I mean, I can go to sleep at any moment and I can really wake up. Like all you have to do is snap your fingers and I can wake right up.
Well, and scheduling's crazy, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do all of these things that need to be done both on the parent side of the fence and the children's side of the fence. And then you've got the teacher side of the fence and, whoa.
I will say for us this summer, my kids went to summer camp, which was basically a community center, in the neighborhood where we live. So we've had a routine this summer. The only difference with school is now I've got to pack lunches and we've got to make sure that everything is in the bags that needs to go to school. So, and the time frame really isn't much different either. We've been getting up at 7, which we try to leave the house between 7:45 and 8. The first bell's at 8:15. You get to 8:45 until you're busy. And what really helped for me is we used to do early care and aftercare. So I was so used to hustling to try and get the kids, to school early. Once I found out that I didn't have to be there until 8:15, I'm like, oh man, you just gave me 30 extra minutes in the morning. So that, so thankfully the crunch to get ready to be at school on time won't be as bad for us because we've had, albeit a loose schedule, we've had a schedule that we've had to follow throughout the summer. So the challenge for me is going to be, I need to discipline myself to pick out outfits the night before, and I need to get lunches packed before I go to bed. So for me, the timing is going to be, 8 o'clock is when we sit down and we read. And then we, from 8 to 8:30 is kind of reading and then tucking in. I'm going to need to discipline myself to, as soon as I get them down in bed, okay, go pack your lunches and then, start my evening unwinding, whatever that's going to be. So, the impetus is on me and you folks and all of us single parents to make sure that we first construct that schedule and then second, make sure that the kids follow.
And, the first thing you do whenever you construct a schedule, right? Do you know what it is?
I'm going to write it all down.
Yeah. And then, but are you going to write it down, like realize this is going to change?
Well, I mean, for you, I don't know if we've shown the listeners my whiteboard yet, which I was criticized for not having it filled out, but my penmanship is atrocious. So believe me, I did you folks a favor by not filling it out. But what we'll do is we'll write a rough timeline, wake up at 7, out the door by 7:45. And we'll, first thing's going to be breakfast, get the dogs and cats fed, get dressed, brush your teeth, take your vitamins, pack your bag. And then it's going to be get ready to walk out the door. So, it's essentially like a rough draft of bullet points kind of, and you start at 7. And as long as we're out the door by 7:45 or 8 at the latest, everything's going to be fine.
I'm impressed you can get all that done in 45 minutes.
Oh,
Darrell.
I am like Sergeant Slaughter running around my house. I'm not kidding, Stacie. I am not friendly in the mornings. And it's like, it's, you got to do this, you got to do this. And the whole time I'm like, you've got 17 minutes to get it done, So but
it's not like
somehow,
a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing though, huh? Like where you kind of go off, or are you pretty calm?
No, I'm not going nuts, but I yell anyway. So my kids are used to me yelling.
Very
Like
passionate.
my base level is probably 70% of everybody else's volume. You know what I mean? So I'm already animated and raising my voice and stuff like that. So when I say I'm running around like Sergeant Slaughter, that's fairly accurate, but I'm not mean about it, but I am yelling. I'll be honest.
If I can ask you a question, Darrell, if you don't mind.
Shoot.
So in your co-parenting situation with your ex, so do you have every morning 5 days a week? I
No,
know it's different.
no, we do. It's a either 2 nights or 5 nights of the week. Neither one of us really want to go a week without the kids.
Right, which is
But when
fair.
my oldest starts the fifth grade, we will go to week on, week off. So the way our routine is, you either get them, I either get them Wednesday night through Sunday night and then to school Monday morning, or I have them Wednesday night and Thursday night and back to school Friday morning. So, I get them from school Wednesday afternoon, and then I've got every Thursday and Friday morning, and then every other Monday morning.
Gotcha.
So it's only half the time that I'm running around like Sergeant Slaughter.
And does your I don't want to say it.
My co-parent?
Your co-parent, yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. So does she do a lot of the same things that you do? Do you guys kind of follow the same routine? I'm just curious about.
We could not be more different. Hence the co-parent and not my wife.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, we're very different. I mean, I don't want to say she's more lax, because I think her organizational skills far exceed mine. But no, I know I run a tighter ship. I have no doubt about that.
So so do you and you may catch on to where I'm going with this, just talking about routines. So when you pick them up from your co-parent, do you feel like you have to work really hard to reinforce the routine because maybe they fall off?
I have experienced that in the past, where it feels like, especially on the week when I've got them for 5 days, I feel like they're just awful for the first 2 days until they get settled into our routine, and then they're perfect, And I often wonder if she gets them from me and she's like, oh my God, these kids, what are they doing? They're so perfect. I'd like to think that anyway, right? So I don't know. I mean, but to answer your question, I would love to be a fly on the wall to see how differently she runs the morning routine as opposed to the way I run it.
Right. Yeah. It's just one of those curious things, And the second part to just that question is, I'm curious to see, being a brand new school year, especially here in Texas, where there's lack of funding for all the virtual stuff, on how they're going to do routines and sanitation and all that stuff. I'm really curious to see how that works out, which, I always hope it works for the best. I live with my glass half full, and I want to see people succeed. I want to see people come out of this, and unfortunately, we're still going to be up and down for a little bit on the COVID front. But, I'm just curious to see how that works out per situation. And of course, with the school year starting, with your kids, I hope they have the best start to the school year, and your school system is on top of their game, especially with taking care of their kids.
Well, obviously, because I'm a reporter and a news anchor, I monitor the school district a lot more closely than I would just as a parent. So I can tell you that, the district is already saying, hey, listen, we can't socially distance these kids. We can't keep them 6 feet apart. There's literally no, with everybody being back, there's just not enough space. Now, when half of them were, learning from home and half of them were in school, yeah, we could spread them out. But I mean, as it is now, like, my first grader, she's going to get to use the playground 1 day a week, because she's one of 5 kindergarten classes, and they can't have everybody on the playground at the same time. So they're going to, find a way to shuffle them all around during that same time frame. But I mean, as far as the cleaning and that sort of stuff, I have no doubt that every school district across the country is going to spare no expense and cut no corners when it comes to cleaning and sanitizing these surfaces, the high touch surfaces, the door handles, the bathrooms and that sort of thing. I have no doubt that there are protocols in place across the country to make sure that each campus is as clean and as quote unquote sterile as it can be every day to kind of limit the spread. But, this, like everything with this godforsaken pandemic, we're going to learn it as we go. And this school year is starting off differently than the one before it. And it's obviously starting off dramatically different than it did in 2019. So, we're going to learn a lot of this on the fly.
Well, you bring up a good point about taking turns, even though sometimes we have to set boundaries, being willing to take turns is a really good thing, like I was thinking about, how do you set boundaries to have successful relationships and successful interactions, being willing to take turns is a nice approach. Darrell, hats off to you there, and to the school systems for making that possible for them to take turns.
Well, I think it's a necessity is the mother of invention. We can't socially distance these kids, so how do we do it the best we can? And it's funny, they've got a covered pavilion part where the kids do their PE stuff, and then they have X's where they want the kids to line up, and they've got they've got colored dots where they want the kids to line up, and they've got X's over every other dot now. So you know what I mean? It's like you can't stand on the X, you can only stand on these dots.
Yep. Well, and keeping a comfortable distance is, making sure you don't get, too obsessed with things, in our relationships. We're talking, I'm sitting here drawing parallels about what's going on with COVID, and then drawing parallels with how we can set good boundaries in our personal lives, right? And I just decided to go there with this. So...
Totally your call, Stacie. It's your show.
It's kind of off in left field. But,
I'm a willing servant.
You take turns. That's good. But then, keep a comfortable distance. Like, don't get fixated or, be overly sensitive. Kind of keep yourself, where you have your self-control, even though somebody else is maybe, not necessarily doing things your way.
That is single parenting, Stacie. You know that because the damn kids never do what we want them to do.
That's
so
right.
We're constantly adapting to what they're doing.
Yeah, but you remember we were talking with Eric earlier, and he said if somebody doesn't do it his way too often, he just pretty much ghosts them. So.
But is he talking about dating relationships? Because if that's what he's talking about, then I completely agree.
I don't know. He was pretty ninja. Eric, were you
being?
There was a dating relationship. Pretty much anybody. Yeah, he's a ninja. He's a boundary ninja. Pretty much you don't do things,
Okay, what happens when mom steps out of line?
When mom steps out of line, oh.
You're not going to cut mom off.
I think I stepped out of line as a mom because my son was older and he always told me, Mom, you're not letting me grow up. I want to know where he was going, what he's doing, who is he going to be there with, what time's he going to be home, I told you this one time, helicopter mom, I just didn't want to let go. And, he'll tell you he loves his mom, but man, he couldn't do anything. I needed to know about everything, even though he was, 15, 16, 17, So I think.
But that's how you keep kids out of trouble. So you shouldn't feel bad about that at all, whether he liked it or not.
Well, that's true. You don't want to be completely disengaged, but there's something about being able to trust your child, or with certain, like creating opportunities for trust to be built. Okay.
How do you do that?
Here's the rules of playing in the sandbox, right? Here's the rules, and as you get older, the sandbox gets bigger, right? So and you prove yourself in a little sandbox, and then you get to a bigger sandbox with maybe some more options in it, and then later on, after you get to where you're doing good in the medium-sized sandbox, you can go to a large one, and so on and so on. But I think setting the rules where, okay, let's see what you do with these 3 sets of boundaries. And once we get that down, and that's going really good, then I know I can trust you there. I'm going to stretch as a parent, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to trust you with a little bit more. And then if I see you're handling those 5 things really good, you get a high five and get some more privileges or more options that I trust you with. And so you're not only respecting boundaries, but you're also building trust and respect, and it's empowering. Because one of the things I was reading, what kind of got me on this was we had this chart about what empowers our kids versus what really does not empower them. It squashes their creativity and their joy. And of course, none of us want that. We want our kids to soar, but it was talking about yelling and all the things that I did. I would fuss and nudge and spur. And,
being a drill instructor?
Oh, yeah. We'd have to practice our spelling tests. I needed to make sure he had all those, ready to go. Poor Chris. And, but at the same time, hindsight 2020, had I thought about the sandbox and thought, okay, I'm going to see if he can pass this spelling test on his own right now. And then if he shows that he needs help, then, I'll go back to, drawing close and playing with him in that particular proverbial sandbox and study with him. And, so forth and so on. But I just was thinking, this time, we're really all feeling out of control. And when we feel out of control, it's really hard to know what your own personal boundaries are, much less what the teachers is, what the volunteers in the line of cars at school when you're going through all of those different environments, or what if you're going to band practice or football practice or cheerleading, all these different variables. And maybe some days your boundaries change. Like one day you feel, okay, this is what I'm cool with. And the next day you feel completely different. Something else happened. You became aware of something else. And all of a sudden you have to change your boundaries in order to be faithful to yourself. How does that play out? And how do you show up in that environment? Well, I think it's through honesty, and going, okay, yeah, yesterday this was my sandbox. Things changed. I'm owning it. All of a sudden I'm not comfortable now, and I need to set a new boundary, like go into school with a mask. Maybe day one you're going without a mask, and you get there and it just really weighs on you. You don't have to change teams or change sides, or be criticized because you're wishy-washy, because the situation changes sometimes and you have to be loyal to what makes you feel safe, right? And people should respect that. That was a little rant right there. What do you think, guys?
I think you're spot on.
Really? Being able to change your boundaries as you face new things.
There are just situations based off what you're saying where it's like you're using the analogy of the sandbox. The size of the sandbox is going to change from time to time, depending on the issue, depending on the level of growth. That's just part of being a parent. But you got to let your kids within boundaries mess up from time to time too. At least that's my opinion. I've born on the back of 1,000 failures, and I have 1,000 of my own, but a lot of those were within the sandbox. But no, I think it was great what you were saying. I do.
I was horrible about expanding the sandbox, so I thought about that. I thought, we really, have all kinds of opportunities to grow our kids, in the garden of life, if you will, and how do we set them up to win, and how do we set ourselves up to win as a parent? I think it's, creating a sandbox and saying, okay, these are the things I trust you to do on your own. And some of those can be privileges, not just duties. And then once that shows that you've got that down really, really good, then let's take a look at adding something later and being clear about, hey, this is what I'm thinking our next step could be. And then if you have to change the rules, it doesn't need to seem unfair. You can be willing to open your heart and say, look, here's where I'm struggling, and it's not to do with you. It's to do with what's going on in the world. And so I'm going to, pull back here, but maybe give a little bit more there, and try to make sure not to get in that position where we're always in defense mode, or we're always in, pardon me, Darrell, always in drill sergeant mode. But, creating environments for our kids and ourselves to actually prosper and feel like, hey, we achieved something, we achieved it together, instead of limited one another. So anyway,
just thinking back to your comment about, how we feel as single parents leading up to the start of the school year. And I feel like it's all, I'm not ready. it's it's all happening way too fast. It's okay. I mean, I still need to go buy a couple of. And I ordered all of our uniforms online, and of course, they're not all going to be here by the time school starts tomorrow. So, I got to go buy a couple of pairs of khaki shorts so I can at least get the kids through the first couple of weeks till everything comes in. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to start the process earlier next year. Although I will give my ex-wife credit in this regard for the school supplies, because like I said, her organizational skills are far exceed mine. So I said, you go get the school supplies, we'll split it. And then that way, I don't have to worry about, did I get the right glue and did you get the right this, just let her take care of all that stuff. And then we'll just split it. So that has certainly eased some of my anxieties about all of it. But, now I'm just stressed out about uniforms.
Yeah, that's going to be something you're going to have to fix pretty quick there, Darrell.
I got to take them to school Thursday. So yes.
So I think this has been a great talk. And I think, just trying to go into the school year with an idea of being flexible, creating opportunities for kids and parents to grow and, prove themselves and earn more privileges or earn, more trust and be more empowered. And then also not being afraid to say, hey, I need to pull back or change or do something different, because our hearts and minds and in this world today with COVID and not just COVID, but any other number of issues, being transparent and talking about it, trying, even though it's chaotic, slowing down and going, I need to change the rules on this, and here's why. And it's not unhealthy to be transparent about that. You're not being, hopefully you're not being inconsistent to where you're just taking, willy-nilly and changing the rules all the time. But if there comes a time with our kids or our teachers or co-parents where we need to sit down and renegotiate something, I think we should go into the school year with that in mind. You don't want to run into a wall in that area. I don't think right now. It just would add even more pressure, I would think.
For sure. Be flexible.
Yep. To the extent that you're not, over compromising your own
and that you're still consistent.
What'd you say, Darrell?
I said that, to at least that you're still consistent and you're,
Yeah, you're consistent and you're communicative and you're clear.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's what I had for our topic today. I don't know. It kind of sounds like a, pretty serious topic. We're supposed to be happy and our kids are going back to school and we're all not locked in. But I just had it on my heart that I just think we're going to be facing some variables. And I wanted us to be able to talk about, what's boundaries look like, for our families as we venture back out there.
It was a long and winding road, but we got there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just a few sidetracks on the way. All right, folks, that's our show for this week. Thank you for joining us. If you want to give to Single Parent Advocates' effort to buy some computers and some books for these single parents going back to school, you can donate through singleparentadvocate.org. Tell us again about the partnership with Amazon Smile.
Oh, yeah. So we are an approved charity with smile.amazon.com. When you buy items on Amazon, you basically go to smile.amazon.com with your same login credentials. You can choose Single Parent Advocate as your charity, and anything you buy will give the charity a little bit of a percentage of the transaction. And so it's a real easy way.
Supplies and uniforms.
School supplies, uniforms, you name it, laundry detergent, it all adds up. And we really appreciate it. It's a great way for us to just invite the community to do what they do every day and support the charity at the same time. So
Brent,
it's a great way for single parents to get involved too.
Brent, are you doing anything exciting this week on RACC-TV?
No. It's staying the course.
Well, the correct answer was everything that we do on RACC-TV is exciting.
Well, I mean, it is, but not anything like way out of
Nope.
the ordinary.
No pies to the face this week.
No, that's what I'm saying. None of that this week. But
No
every
eggs.
night, every opportunity is a great one. It always is. Always meeting new people is the real adventure. Because in anything we do, networking never stops. You never stop meeting people. And but no pies to the face or eggs or anything like that. There's a trend going around with like ghost pepper chips and hot nuts. But the last time I did that, I was on the couch for about a day. So I'm being a little careful with that one. But
I grow jalapenos in my garden. That's enough. That's enough Scovilles for me.
Yeah, I'm talking like there's one going around that's like 9-10 million Scovilles.
No.
And you see them they get this like the 1,000-yard stare, and you start seeing their face get red, and then they're like, I'll be back in a minute, and they're back in about 10. And
yeah, I'm not going to go for nothing that spicy for sure.
All right, folks, catch us next week when we'll have more exciting conversations. I'm going to get us a good guest for next week. Maybe talking about parallel parenting. We're going to try and see if we can run somebody down on that.
Yeah, it'll be an awesome topic. And you guys just be kind, be flexible, and breathe out there. We're going to get back to school, and it's going to be good if we let it.
See you, folks.
Bye.